Hello, welcome to The Secrets of Seeing. My name is Christene Sandeson, and today we're going to be doing a little bit more in our series on imaginative crafts. Today we'll be looking a little bit at the use of paper. Now, many of us think of paper as something that is two-dimensional, something that perhaps you draw on, or maybe you make pictures on it. Today I'd like to show you just a few ideas, a few ways that we can use paper in the third dimension. And it does involve some work that little children can use, as well as some more complicated work, such as origami, that adults might enjoy as well. So, let's get started. All right, as you know, I'll put on my apron so that I'll look like an artist. Need to do that, don't you? Okay. All right, I think we'll start with the simple, go from simple to complex. Now, when I work with people who are in training to be teachers, and I have done that for a number of years, I think it's a good idea to introduce the person, whether it's a small child or whether it's an adult, to some simple techniques to kind of warm up the fingers, if you will. I think we could start by some simple paper manipulations. For example, we could take a simple piece of paper such as, well, I guess this is just old construction paper. One of the simplest things we can do with construction paper to make it not lie flat is to crumple it up. Now, sometimes working with crumpled paper makes things a little bit easier to work with. For example, when we start doing origami, there are certain things we'll be doing with the paper before we start working that will help us prepare the item that we're making. So crumpled paper sometimes is easier to work with. You can now open it up. It has a bit of a texture to it, and if you wanted to fold it or crease it or whatever you wanted to do, it does make it softer and easier to work with. Let's leave this in a ball just for now. Another thing that some people like to do with paper is to fold it into a fan shape. So we can try that now. I have a piece started. Now, this is not difficult to do, but sometimes it takes a little bit of practice. One of the things you need to do is to try to have the folds of the fan about the same width. So I have a couple started. Now I'm going to flip the paper over, and with my thumb, I'm going to brace my thumb against the table and fold over my thumb, hold it with my middle fingers, and press it down. And it's just a simple process of going back and forth using that technique. If you had a lot of paper folding to do, you'd probably find that this would get tiresome after a while, so we won't do very much of it. Once we have the fans made, there are a couple of options we can do with them. And we'll talk about that in just 1 minute here. Okay. Now, a paper fan probably would look more attractive if it was 2 or 3 times the width that this particular piece of paper is. We can make it more interesting by shortening the fanned part. We could do that by sliding our fingers up. We could also fold it over and join it to itself. We could put a little bit of tape or glue at the edges, and that would give it a larger fan. Perhaps we should do that right now. I have some tape right here. Okay. Now, some of the women that I work with like to use fans as decorations in their rooms. Just going to put a little piece of tape on the back of that. There, we can just leave that for now. Now, I'm going to fold it back up. I'm going to show you something else we can do with this. I didn't tape it very evenly, so we'll just do that. If I had my utility knife with me, I would simply use the knife to make these cuts. But I have my scissors instead. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a couple of V's into this. Now we open up our fan, and we can get a bit of a design or a bit of a pattern. We can add a couple more things. We could take a piece of yarn. We're really talking about making a fan as a decoration at this point. Take a little piece of yarn, stick it through our opening that we folded over. You can tie a knot or a bow. Now some people are really good at tying bows and things. It's not one of my personal skills, but you can see that if you had a variety of attractively colored papers, you could make quite a nice arrangement using paper fans. Now, this is just another way of working with paper in the third dimension. You can also take ordinary construction paper. I'm going to take a smaller pair of scissors. Take ordinary construction paper, cut it into a 1-inch width strip, and you can make paper curls. Just by going over the paper a few times will give you that rolled effect. We'll try that a few times with paper that is increasingly smaller. Okay, now here's a piece that's a little wider than a 1/2 inch, so we'll try that one. You can do this with ribbon as well. Sometimes you can buy that crinkly ribbon that you can curl it. I always like to think that you shouldn't have to go out and buy unusual supplies in order to do things that are attractive and crafty, if that's what you want to do. So I'm often trying to find ways of taking what is sold as a commercially specific product for particular crafts and making the same thing using very ordinary materials. Now, I realize that this paper curl doesn't have the same kind of a curl as the ribbon that you buy, but it serves a similar effect. And when you think about the purpose of those ribbons that you buy simply for decoration, and if you happen to have construction paper available, which is very cheap, I might add, it'll last you for years, you know, why get all of these other supplies in when you can do just as much with less? Here's a smaller piece. Now, the narrower it is, the tighter the curl. As you can see here, we can compare the two curls. For example, this is the first one I believe that I did, and here is the last one. Now, this is about a little, maybe 3/8 of an inch wide, whereas this is wider than an inch, and you can see the difference in the curls. You can get construction paper in different colors, of course: blue, yellow, red, black, white, green, brown, purple, orange. Comes at pretty much a full spectrum of color. So we can do fans, crumples, and curls. Now, I want to show you something else. Actually, I'm going to leave that here. I'll turn my construction paper pad upside down, and that will serve as my cutting board. A lot of people think, for example, that you need to have scissors in order to work. If you do not have scissors, construction paper is very easy to tear simply by folding it, creasing it, and tearing it. You can get a wonderfully straight edge tear with construction paper. Another way to cut paper, if you do not want to use your scissors, but you can simply score it by holding the paper with your hand, taking your straight edge, maybe it's a knife, maybe it's the edge of a scissor, maybe it's just something pointy, like here's something that I use to scoop things out of, and hold it, make your line, and then start your tear. Tears right apart. You really don't need to have scissors, although they certainly do come in handy. So that was paper scoring and tearing. Sometimes that comes in handy. For example, if I want to make some folds, but I don't want to tear something through. For example, let's pretend that you're working with a cardboard box, or better yet, just a piece of cardboard. You can score the back of the cardboard just by making the line with the edge of the scissor, and then when you go to fold it in the opposite direction of the score, it will make a much cleaner fold. And especially with cardboard, where cardboard is so thick and it has that inner core which is rippled inside. And even if you cut through the outer edge of the cardboard but not the inner edge, that will make your corner very firm. So, working with paper in the third dimension, as we are doing right now, does provide us with some options for creativity. Now, we could glue this, and we can get a standing structure. We can add it to a tube. You know what a paper tube is? It's just simply rolled paper and taped on the back. So we could have paper, freestanding paper structures. Put a little bit of tape on that. Now, if I really wanted to do a good clean job of this, I would add glue, but since we're working on television, trying to get it done fairly succinctly, we'll just use the tape. So we can have standing structures, and let me make one more. I'll take a piece of green paper, and I will cut it about the same width as what I already have. Tear it. Now, I think I will do a square structure like I have here. Fold it 1, 2, 3 times. Now, I didn't really leave myself enough room to pin it at the back, so I'll just make a little fold there now. Stick it together. There we go. Okay, now we can have or the beginnings of a freestanding item, and if children were playing with paper using this kind of a technique, they could soon start building, just like if they had building blocks or toys or a mechano set or you know, those Legos and Zacks and things like that that children like to play with. So this is one use of paper that we can introduce ourselves to at a very young age and still be able to make some interesting items. Before I move on, let me just show you something that is a little more adult in orientation, using the same concepts. Now, if you look down at this card that I have here, what you will see is an example of something that's called paper quilling. Now, paper quilling, as you can see, consists of a variety of thin paper strips, perhaps about as wide as what I have here, 1/4 of an inch wide, and we have it in construction paper in yellow, red, and blue, and a little piece of black. Now, it is 3-dimensional. It does stand up, and the way we did that is we cut a little paper strip about the width of a piece of construction paper, and instead of using the scissors to curl it, we're going to roll it very tightly. And it's it's definitely an adult skill, because if you rolled this, if a little child rolled this, they might find it maybe just a little too much for them. So I've rolled about half of it. Now, I can let it unravel a little bit, and I could touch this with glue and it could stick down just like that. And I could complete an image or a picture or whatever I wanted. It could be just an abstract design, more or less what I have here. But that's paper quilling, and that is perhaps a bit more of an advanced skill. Something I'd like to move on to, though, which is an activity that I've kind of become familiar with only recently. Now, it starts, of course, when you're a child at school, and you have these little fortune-telling manipulations made from paper. Now, you've all seen the, pardon me, you've all seen these, haven't you? And the children go 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, what is your wish? And the other child has to pick a number. And then we open up, and inside we see, oh, there's a star, there's a cross, there's a heart, and a diamond. So the child picks one of those. And then the person who owns the fortune-telling item, they say, okay, well, now I'm going to tell you what kind of a person you are. So they open it up and they say, oh, you're a royal person. Whatever you have written down there. Sometimes they put down their boyfriend's names. Sometimes you use different colors on the outside. But this toy that children make, and there are many such toys like this, are examples of origami. Now, origami is something that is fairly common because even as children we would make paper hats. We didn't think at the time that we were doing origami, but we are. Now, origami is an ancient Chinese or Japanese, I'm not exactly sure of its history, method of paper folding where you create different items. But before we get into origami, I would like to show you a little bit about how to prepare your paper for an origami activity. Okay. You will see that I have in front of me several kinds of paper. Well, I'm not going to use the newsprint because that's just too soft. One kind of paper you can use is the ordinary typing paper or computer paper, which most of us know as bond paper. And I have that, and this is pre-folded here. Another kind of paper that works very well is gift wrap paper. And this particular piece of gift wrap paper, you can see it has some nice colors. It has a blue background with crayons in the color of green, red, yellow, and black. If you get fancy, you can use some Christmas paper. This particular piece of Christmas paper has got foil, sort of a gold leaf kind of a shine to it, which makes it very glittery and glossy. You can buy origami paper, which is usually plain colored in terms of having no pattern, and often it is white on the other side. So it is in the same way that wrapping paper is patterned on one side and plain on the other, so is origami paper. Now I have several Christmas papers here all cut out, but I think the first thing you need to know is how to prepare your paper before you begin any origami activity. I'm going to take my piece of paper, which I have already folded, and even though, like the crumpled paper that we looked at earlier, even though it has been pre-folded, it is not ruined. Some people think, oh, the paper is ruined because it has a fold in it. Well, that's not the case. This paper, which I have crumpled, is not ruined. It has a nice texture and it might be just right for some other activity. Okay? This origami paper has been folded in such a way that will make it easier for us to make our item, our animal. In this case, it's going to be a fish that I'll make. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. In order to fold the paper, pre-fold the paper, we fold it in half and in quarters. Okay, so we have a long, narrow piece. Now we need to fold it in its opposite direction as well. So turn it around and do that. And then fold it backwards from the middle so that you have 1, 2, 3 long folds that way. We want to do it in the other direction so that we have our vertical and horizontal folds in place. We also need to fold it diagonally. Okay? Now we have to fold it again diagonally so that we get the cross happening, the diagonal crosses. Now, as you begin to look at this paper, you're going to see that we have folds that go in this direction, folds that go in this direction, folds that go in this direction, and when we finish our folding, they will also go in the other diagonal. So we will have a completely pre-folded piece of paper, and if you do that before any origami activity, you'll find that your item will work out much better. Before you begin any origami activity, and even before you do your folding, it's a good idea to check your paper to make sure that it is square. Now, not all origami activities require square paper. Some of them require rectangular shapes, but the piece that I'm going to show you is for a square piece of paper. Now, I guess I just assumed that you did know, but in case you don't, also I want to warn you against paper trimmers. Paper trimmers do not always cut paper squarely. They can cut a straight edge, but sometimes their square is off, so you might want to check that. I have a paper trimmer at home, and this is why I know. Now, look at this. I've just folded this paper. Perhaps I'll show you with origami. No, I won't, because the origami paper will be cut properly. But this is my paper, and if you can see, there is an edge a bit larger than 1/4 of an inch. Look at this. Slide that in. Can you see the difference there? It's hard to see white on white, but you can see when I'm holding this that even using the paper trimmer, there is maybe 3/8 of an inch difference in my square. So before I do anything, it's really important to make sure that your paper is square. Oops. It doesn't hurt to check it the other way as well. So we'll do that right now. Now I'm going to fold the other diagonal. Yeah, it's a little off there too. I mean, we could keep doing this all day long, but eventually you're going to have it pretty close. In some of my teaching, I feel surprised that there are some people that don't know how to make a square piece of paper. So I must always remember not to make the assumption that people know how to do things when maybe they really don't. Whenever you're working with people, it's a good idea just to go through all of the steps, just so that everyone is on the same playing field, so to speak. Okay, well, there are a couple things I could show you. Perhaps first of all, I'll show you how to make the, what is that, a fortune-telling thing. Okay, we're going to use, I'll use this colored paper, just so you'll see the differences in the color. To make our fortune-telling item, we're going to fold on the diagonals. So we have our center, which because of my folding, I know is right here. And we can mark that if you want to. Now, our paper is pre-folded, so it's very easy just to fold our edges up into it. If you haven't creased both sides, then you'll realize that you will have to do that in order to make it easy. Okay, we have folded the diagonals in, and now we have a smaller square. We'll turn our paper upside down and repeat that process. 1, 2, 3. See how easy it folds, and that's because it's been pre-folded. 3 and 4. Now, we're going to take this and just fold it in half this way, and then this way, and then I'm going to bring my corners together and stick my finger in the little pockets that are made on the outside. There we go. Now we can play our game. But let's move on to something that perhaps you haven't seen before. I'll take a piece, I'm going to use the shiny Christmas paper. I have not pre-folded this, so I'll take a minute to do this now. With this particular activity, I'm going to do my diagonals first. That way I can check my square. Might as well do all 4 of them at the same time. If it is pretty much square, then that will be all right. Only if it's really out by 1/4 of an inch should you be concerned. Okay, so my diagonals appear to be okay. I've pre-folded on the diagonals. Now I'm going to fold on the length and the width. Now usually I have all this done so that you don't have to watch me do these things at home, but this will just sort of tell you some of the preparation that goes into it. Okay. Now we have our paper pre-folded. I haven't gone back and forth with it, but we'll deal with that. Okay. Now let me think. Right, I'm going to turn it so that our shiny side is down, and I'm going to fold the paper into the center, like that, and I'm going to fold these sections in as well. And now I'm going to unfold them all except for one. I want to fold this up, but before I do so, I'm going to pull out, now you have to watch me carefully here, I'm going to pull out right here at this fold. I'm going to pull this out at the fold, I'm going to stick my finger in and hold it now. I have to think, how does this go? I'm caught, oh no, this is the way it goes, like this, okay. There, I didn't fold it backwards, and there I'm getting stuck on that. There we go. So I'm about to make one of the first things in this particular fish, which is called the pinwheel fold. So I want to go to all of my corners, keep that pinwheel fold. I'm going to pull this diagonal out, fold that. There, this one is pretty much made. And I'm going to pull this one out and make my pinwheel. Now you will have to practice that. Basically, what that involves is folding the paper up but pulling out one corner so that it looks like this, and that's the pinwheel. Now, because we're going to make a fish, this part here will become the tail, and I'm going to fold the tail out like that. And I'm going to fold back this fin so that I have two fins and a tail. Now, I'm going to unfold my origami, and I'm going to flip back this corner here. I would really recommend that anyone who wants to practice origami find themselves a book in the library and follow the directions. Sometimes it takes just a few tries before you can get it right. Now, this is our fish. I don't know if you can see it at home, but there it is. Now, I have a few others made already. Here's one made from origami paper, right here. And here's one which I have attached to a stick. This one has got a little face on it, so we can do that with these other two. We can put an eye and a smile, and an eye and a smile. Now, sometimes you wonder, well, what do you do with it when you have it made? And I just want to give one quick suggestion before we finish up today. As you've noticed, I have put this little fellow here on a stick. Now, I can do the same with this one. Now, what I'm going to do, as you probably can see, is make a mobile. Because I had these other two fish already pre-threaded, I can do this fairly quickly. Okay, now I haven't glued these on the stick, but let me just show you. Okay, I have a needle and a thread all ready. Remember to put a knot, I don't know if you can see this, a knot at the end of the thread. Okay, so when you have your knot tied at the end of the thread, then open up one of the fins and just poke your needle through. Oops. It helps to put a little bit of glue on the end of that. Let's try that right now. Just to keep it from going through, and it will help to seal it in after as well. Okay, so we have a little bit of glue. We're going to stick it back in. Okay, there we go. Now I'm just going to cut my thread off the needle, put the needle in a safe place, and come back to my skewer, which is what I'm using for my mobile, and I'm going to tie my third fish on. This fish has got a shorter string, but that's okay. They don't all have to be the same. You want to make sure when you make your mobile that there's enough room for your figures to move around. There, here's the starting of our mobile. Now, as you know, we can simply add another string, and the key to making the mobile work will be to make sure that it remains balanced. Okay, well, as I'm finishing up, pardon me, I just want to say that I hope you'll join me next week, and we'll do more creative crafts. I want to thank you very much for joining. Bye-bye. There.